Hello. Again?
Hi.
Okay.
Hey, everybody. Hi, Margie.
Which is the stress hormone. So they do have physiological, mental, and also they benefit the air in the home. So that benefits our respiratory system, which at this point in time, keeping good respiratory health and keeping our home environments free of dust and pollutants and chemicals is just another step that keeps us healthy respiratorily. And when we have, kind of this COVID threat at all times, the healthier that our respiratory systems can be, the better prepared we are for that. So just a question for everybody. What type of houseplants do you have? And which one is your very favorite? We can see Shay has a rock and fern behind her. That must be.
It's actually a bamboo fern. Yes. I have two of them. And I started during COVID. I've killed plants all my life, basically. And so I'm like, this is a good time when I'm sheltering in. I can kind of nurture and tend to something. So this is Fossey. This is Kova over here. So there's two of them. I thought, why not name them a little pun on it, right? Why not? And then we now have little babies all over. I think I have 20 plants in the house now since this all started. And they're all, knock on wood, they're all doing really well. I've named all of them. I talk to them. I'm like, yeah, don't die on me, okay? I pluck their dead little leaves and everything. It's really fun. I forgot to tell you too. Tonight's event or tonight's talk, listen, and share is also sponsored by Creation Succulents. So at the end of our talk tonight, we'll be having a little giveaway for that too. So yeah, she might have talked me into a couple different plants in the house.
So exciting. I love her stuff. She's great. I love Marissa.
So what do you think the number one cause of plant death is?
Lack of attention.
Overwatering.
Overwatering it.
Too much attention.
They're a lot tougher than they look. They don't need as much as we think, but it's that's the number one cause of indoor plant death. We just choke them. So what are some of the benefits, and why is healthy? I'm going to kind of do an overview of indoor air. We spend 90% of our time indoors, and the air that we breathe can be fresh, or the air that we breathe indoors might be stale. There usually are quite a few chemicals from just the furnishings, the pillows, the cooking, our beauty habits in the bathroom. So all of these let off chemicals. And even objects you don't think of as being actives can still offset chemicals, particularly like natural wood furniture is replaced by composite pieces, and those can be things that offset different chemicals into the air that we're not aware of. So they're emitted by our habits and by our products. And we also can have dust accumulation and things in the house that release allergens. So pets coming in from the outdoors and not taking off your shoes, you can track different things in: pesticides, dirt, dust, particularly in the desert with the winds. It's just amazing sometimes what you find in your house when the windows have been open or been closed the entire time. So there's a lot that can enter the house that you don't think of as something that's potentially harmful, but it can be. And the other thing as far as allergens, sometimes when you walk, have you ever had the experience of walking into work and then the minute you walk into this environment, you start sneezing? Or you walk into someone's house and you start feeling a little itchy. And it can be related to pets, but sometimes it's just related to environments that are a little bit stale. Pamela and I have worked in hospitals, and I mean, it's like in intensive care units that are completely zipped up.
Oh, yeah.
Walk into environments that have medications, all types of different particulate matter flowing around. And I know that I used to walk into one unit up at UCLA, and the minute we walked in, everybody started sneezing. So it was, you realize the glory of indoor air that's fresh, particularly when you work in some of our work environments, often office environments, cubicle environments. They can be a little close. We're also dependent on artificial ventilation. So many people have air conditioning systems that have humidifiers on them that might assist with keeping air fresh and humidified in the desert. And some of us don't. So one thing that I was mentioning is when I take care of my plants, I don't water them that often, but I miss them every day. And I also miss the home. And it just seems, it makes things fresher. It makes things cooler. You just feel like you're getting a little bit of a drop of fresh air. And I will mention a nursing theorist who brought in the practices and the awareness of air in and the healing qualities of it. And you all know her, Florence Nightingale.
Oh.
What Florence did with the Crimean War was walk into a hospital that was very stale, that didn't have any type of air exchange. There were fumes. It must have been a dreadful place to walk in. Not good, good sanitary practices were set up. People were just stagnantly lying in bed without light, without fresh air, without basic cleanliness. So these are the areas that she focused on, but she started opening up windows, pulling back curtains, introducing light and air circulation, so that people would have a vitality and they would have, you get rejuvenated from fresh air and from light. So she said the primary interventions to allow healing involved fresh air and providing the basic intervention of opening up and allowing for air to circulate.
And she did bring plants in too, Rosemary. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, I am not a techie guru, and I had tried to say something when you were asking about plants earlier, and I was muted. So forgive me. She did bring flowers, like you're saying, plants, how important they are in the house, because she wanted to create that healing environment for her patients. So you're right about the air quality. She opened all those windows. She brought in plants. She brought in flowers and artwork for these patients.
Yeah, they were completely sensory deprived. They were essentially completely deprived of any sensory stimulation. So one thing that I encourage everybody to do is try to pull up from Google. In the 70s, NASA performed a study on the air filtering capacity of plants. Now, why was NASA so concerned about this? Buildings had gone from open air environments. I mean, when you think about mid-century modern environments, there were lots of windows, there was lots of airflow. It was encouraging the outdoors in. And then we started creating huge buildings that were, that didn't allow for airflow, that had windows that you might be able to see out of, but you couldn't open, artificial ventilatory systems, emitting lots of different electrical activities and furnishings and just the products that were used. And so what happened when so many of these buildings were erected, when people started going into the workplace, they started becoming ill and having symptoms of headaches, sore throats, concentration issues. So the complaints were consistent enough that they had to study these. And so they came up with the knowledge that buildings can be detrimental to people's health, and that the airtight ceiling of the buildings contributed significantly to health problems, and they called it sick building syndrome. So NASA was concerned about this for a number of reasons, their workplaces, but the other thing that NASA was concerned with is they had little tiny spaces that they were sending people to space in, or they had confined spaces for training, or they had confined spaces in the workplace. So they wanted to study the effects of plants for the potential to send into space, and for the potential to just decrease these detrimental health benefits that were happening because of this new construction and these airtight, closed building facilities that were so frequent and were being introduced widely. So the concept was that indoor air pollution was real, and they started identifying trace chemicals and their correlation to disease. So we'll just discuss a few, but if you go on, it's about a 15-page report of this study, and it's just very, very interesting, the modality that they use to study plants and the modalities that they use to identify the chemicals that were being released into the air. And sometimes even things like there are different chemicals that even in, like formaldehyde, even in a small amount that might be just a trace amount, it can still have effects of irritation to the respiratory tract, to the sinuses, and cause some issues with headaches and mentation. Now, the British had an interesting study on sick building syndrome. So there was a Dr. Tony Pickering in Manchester, England, and he said that the symptoms are minimal in naturally ventilated buildings, and that naturally ventilated buildings had a much higher microorganism count. So when they measured the microorganisms in a closed space that didn't have natural ventilation, they found that the bioorganisms were greatly reduced. So he surmised from this that you need to do something to introduce healthy microbes into these environments, and maybe it will have a beneficial effect on reducing the symptoms and reducing some of the toxins that are in the air. So the plants would be introduced to improve the microdiversity within these closed space buildings that didn't have natural ventilation. So then what NASA did is take it a little bit further, and they studied the habits. They used higher plants that had an association with kind of creating a really rich soil microorganism that would help diversify the air and reduce the pollution and the symptoms. So the answer to the problem was introduce plants. So they studied a number of plants in a very small environment. So they created these very tight environments, introduced different chemicals into it, and then they would study the air before, during, and after a 24, 48-hour period. So when they first introduced the chemical, you analyze the air. The plant's capacity to purify the air would be analyzed after 24 hours, et cetera. And they had controlled soil, controlled fertilization, controlled, everything was very much a controlled state. So what they found after 24 and 48 hours is that specific plants had the capacity to reduce chemicals like benzene, the formaldehydes, etc. And some plants had the capacity to wipe out all, like a number of them. So it was an interesting study, and it introduced how plants became part of, like in the 70s and in the 80s, there were people that had jobs that just did nothing but take care of industrial plants. So you used to walk into buildings and see, walls of plants, or particularly like the mother-in-law tongue, which is back there. Those are very popular because they're really hard to kill, even when you try to. So they're hardy plants, and they have a wonderful ability to clean the air, and also most of the plants secrete oxygen, and they secrete moisture into the air. So that's another important aspect, that the air is refreshed by having the plants there. So all of these studies have been pretty much worshipped in the plant world and grabbed onto in the plant world as the ability to completely, just line your house with plants and you will have a detoxified environment. Well, the sad thing was, there are lots of research that's kind of debunking these findings and saying that it is over-amplified when it comes to an actual room space. Because if you're dealing with open space in a room and you have a couple of plants, do they really have the capacity to purify the water the way that these plants did in their contained environment? So they say that they're not buying that they detoxify the air to the extent that it has been promoted for the last 40 years. That said, they still found research that was valid research that said that they purified the air. They might not be able to purify the air in the capacity that it did in that closed environment, but they still refresh the environment. They still emit moisture, and they emit oxygen, which are very important factors in fresh air within a closed space. So it'll be interesting to see how they try. I didn't see any actual studies that proved that they were completely debunked, but there was a lot of theorists that said, you would need to have a huge plant every 100 feet in your house in order to provide that amount of purification. Now, when we're talking about air purification, I think there's also something else that's happened in the last 40 years, which is very beneficial, and that there is an awareness that a lot of the additives, the furnishings, the chemicals that are applied to fabric to fire retard them, to keep them waterproof, to keep them from staining, are not the greatest things in the world for us. So there have been lots of clean practices that have been introduced, so we have choices about what we bring into the house, and we have choices about, because something that's really rather offensive is dry cleaning. The dry cleaning process introduces a lot of chemicals. So there are a couple of ways to remedy that. You can choose green cleaners that use much better products that have reduced toxins, or you can offset gases on newly dry cleaned clothing by leaving it outside for a few hours and removing the plastic bag. So removing the plastic bag is important because it helps offset some of those chemicals. Now, the powerhouse, one thing that is definitely agreed upon is that through the research, they found that the powerhouse of the plant is the root system and the dirt. So the plant has the ability to take in chemicals, to take in different types of elements, and then it's through the root system and through the soil that the microbes are released and that the process of detoxifying happens. But the other thing that's interesting is that plants can take in these chemicals, but they don't recirculate them and emit them. They modify them to make them their fuel, their food. It's not unlike the big plastic islands that are out in the ocean. It's like the fish are adapting those as their environments. So it's just an interesting way that nature is adapting and helping us. So the air pollutants become new plant tissue, and it feeds the plant, but it doesn't get recirculated out into the air. And they also did research, and they found that even if a plant doesn't have super rich leaves, so they went in and plucked off a bunch of leaves of different plants to see if the leaves were actually the part that had a great deal of, that were partially responsible. And they found that de-leafed plants still had the capacity in the soil and in their roots to do this detoxification process. They certainly wouldn't look as pretty, which is part of the reason for having a plant, because you find them beautiful. So some of the chemicals that we're talking about, I'll just talk about a few, but if you go online and pull up the article, the NASA research, it's just interesting, the different chemicals and the different symptoms that they did. But benzene is a commonly used as a solvent, and it's in gasoline, inks, oils, paints, rubber. It's also used in many dyes, pharmaceuticals, and detergents. So it's a skin irritant, eye irritant, and it can also mutate cells. So that's something when we're talking about keeping our environment fresh. Many of these chemicals can have some carcinogenic qualities to them. So that's important to be aware of, and all the more reason for us to focus on keeping households and household air fresh. So the other thing that with the benzene I mentioned before, that even like a chronic exposure to low doses can have symptoms, headaches, loss of appetite, drowsiness, nervousness. So it can also lead to some anemia and some bone marrow suppression. So that's a good one for us to consider to try to alleviate these things from entering our home. Trichloroethylene, or TCE, a number of industrial uses, and it's used in the dry cleaning industry, printing, paints, lacquers, varnishes, and adhesive. And this has been linked to some liver changes in people that have high exposure to the trichloroethylene. Another thing, I'm just going to backtrack a bit about the more current research. One thing that they're bringing forward is that we have offices in our homes now. We have a lot of different technologies in our home, and what are the effects of that, particularly printers. Printers can emit a lot of different chemicals because of the inks and the process. So an analysis of what is being introduced to the home through all the home offices, et cetera, is something that they were kind of relaying, that they didn't think that plants would be as effective in the home as they were in their controlled environments at NASA. And then formaldehyde, we think of it back in our science labs as being that horrible stuff that smelled nasty and preserved things, but it's actually found in a lot of the wood pressed products. So the particle boards, et cetera, contain a lot of formaldehyde. And consumer products, facial tissue, waxed papers, wrinkle repellents, paper towels, a lot of cleaning agents have formaldehyde in them. And also floor coverings. So there are different qualities of carpeting if you have carpeting in your home. And some of the really less expensive products are all chemically based. They're chemically based fabrics and fibers, as opposed to a natural fiber like a cotton or a wool. So fire retardants, you think about, it's great that we have the ability to douse fires, but what are we really dousing them with? There's high chemical content. So it's always a good idea to keep your house locked down pretty tight whenever the fires are, besides the ash, but the chemicals that are dispersed when they're fighting the fires. Cigarette smoke, heating and cooking fuels also have a great deal of formaldehyde. So what does formaldehyde do? It really irritates mucous membranes. So your mouth, your nose, your lungs, your throat, your eyes and it also is something that is related to exacerbation of asthma symptoms. So they're trying to reduce formaldehyde in products. And like I said, we're just living in an environment where people are more aware, and we do have choices. We can get paper products that are made in a more organic, sustainable fashion. And it seems like corporations are finally kind of getting on the bandwagon to have cleaner production, and they have less chemicals introduced into products that come into the home. Another thing that's interesting to do is to look up, with all of your cleaning products, material data safety sheets. You can go online. And from personal experience, I know when COVID happened, I introduced something that I never have in the house, and that's like bleach-based products. And my God, they're pretty strong. They linger for days. You felt protected from the virus, but then it's like, this is really something that's causing a lot of respiratory irritation in the house. And there's an art to doing it. So watering down products, being sure that you have good air circulation and those types of things when you're doing something that you know has a high volatility to it, that we just have to practice a little bit differently. So I got a jump start on using those products, because I usually use pretty organic based products that don't have nearly as much toxic side effects. So plants can, and we'll talk about different plants tonight, but there are plants, so plants during the photosynthesis process, when they're exposed to light, they go through all of these chemical processes, and they take in the carbon dioxide and they release oxygen. They take in nutrients, they process it, they create their microorganisms. But there are some plants that, and these are plants that people like to put in their bedrooms, that don't rely on photosynthesis to take in carbon dioxide and emit oxygen. Case in point, these two that are behind me, the ones that are in the brass pots, one is an orchid, and the other one is a mother-in-law tongue, which is a snake plant. And those are oxygen emitters at night. So are they going to change your oxygen saturation? No. Are they going to take all the carbon dioxide out of your room? No. It's a gentle process that goes on, but it just seems like at night when you sleep, particularly if you snore, it's just like it might be nice to just feel like very fresh air is in the room. Something that refreshes overnight while we're sleeping. And then you can wake up to something to look at that's delightful, like an orchid or a mother-in-law tongue that's just nice and strong and introduces greenery and just life into the bedroom. So, but there are a number of plants that do emit oxygen at night, as opposed to being reliant on the photosynthesis process, which is nice because these are plants that also emit humidity. And one of the things that we all wake up with is feeling exceedingly dry. So having some plants in might increase the humidity enough so that you wake up feeling a little bit more refreshed. So, we're going to we're going to be able to breathe a little bit easier in the presence of plants. We are going to have an increased indoor humidity in the presence of plants. And plants do release almost 100% of the moisture that you provide them, the water they provide them. You provide them back into the air. So the more plants you have, the greater the effect. So that is something that is, one little plant in the house is really lovely and it gives you something to take care of and to nurture, but it's not going to have the effects that if you kind of increase your jungle a little bit inside. And one thing that's really important, there are plants that have a greater effect of purification and of providing moisture, etc. But it's really important that you like the plant, that you love it, that you think it's beautiful. So when you're choosing your plant, you want to go based on something that's going to give you some pleasure in your home, and they might have the side effects of just being incredibly beneficial for you. Then they have, so air purification, just a couple of studies, and then I'll turn this over to Dr. Fung. One thing, so it's interesting that over the centuries, we've had the practice of a housewarming. We give people plants. When they're sick, we give people plants and flowers. So there have been studies that have been done, and they found that plants in a patient's room when they're recovering from surgery actually lowered heart rate, lowered blood pressure. They experienced less fatigue, anxiety, and pain, and they were able to leave the hospital more quickly from a simple plant. And the adding plants to office settings, this is a study that was done in Holland, decreased fatigue, colds, headaches, coughs, and so the sickness and the illness and absentee rate actually fell in businesses when they introduced plants into them. Okay, Dr. Fung?
All right, so I just wanted to put in some practical suggestions on what types of plants would be easily maintained and grown in the desert. That would be that are high air purifiers. I have a lot in my clinic. My clinic's very, very green, and it takes me a long time to maintain my plants, but it's a good thing. I think it makes the place look nice, and also it helps again with bringing in a more relaxing environment, as well as helping to clean the air. So it's a couple. So I wanted to just give a list of a few plants that I found have been very easy to grow in the desert and maintain. One plant is the peace lily. Another plant is the snake plant, or the mother-in-law's tongue, or the ones that stick out like this. that is, yes, that one. Another one that is also super easy to maintain and really pretty are spider plants. And aloe vera is also another one that's really great, again, for the environment. And also, you just stick a piece in a soil and keep the soil moist, and it will grow. So it's super simple to propagate and to maintain as well. And palm plants as well. Palm plants and ferns are very great air purifiers. And again, here in the desert, very easy to maintain. So you don't have to overwater them. I have injured my plants before by overwatering and overloving. So I think that's what happened to my aloe plant. But my other my other plants, I don't know, succulents, man. When we talk about creation succulents, like I always fall back to her and be like, why am I killing this? And she's like, stop watering it. So anyhow, yeah, my aloe needs help, but all the rest of my plants are doing very well, especially orchids are really great too, but they are, the one thing that I found in the desert is for orchids, you definitely need to water them more than it is typically stated on the instructions, because it's so much drier in the desert that you will actually underwater, and it will dry and die. Okay, so that's my little piece there. Shay, I know we have some things that you wanted to add.
If I can just add a couple of things.
Sure.
Spider plant is one of the best for releasing moisture into the air. It is good for all living spaces, but it's effective at removing formaldehydes. And the snake plant is good at removing formaldehydes, nitrogen oxide, and any of the byproducts of fuel burning appliances, fireplaces, gas stoves, etc. So it's good in kitchen. You can put a snake plant anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, anywhere. Absolutely. You can even, there's a lot of, if you even look up on Pinterest, you can look up plants that purify the air. And there's going to be a ton of just charts with several, top 10 plants or top 5 plants, and all the different types of chemicals that they can process and purify the air from. So the resources are out there. Just get creative, and yeah, I think that bringing in nature into your space does a lot. There's a lot of overlap, not just for the practical air purifying, but also for overall stress reduction and I think for me it's more peace of mind, and it's a nice hobby.
It's a fun putter. Taking care of your plants is just something that really you have such a lovely focus away from computers and stress and work.
It helps me de-stress after work.
I just have a picture of a peace rose. I don't know if you can see it. It might not translate, but
bring it up towards your.
There you go.
There it is.
Yeah, they're beautiful plants, and they have lovely white flowers on them, and they're like the anthurium. They're the red peace lily is actually the Hawaiian anthurium, and they're just beautiful, graceful plants. And I mean, they flower indoors. And they purify the air. It's like, what's not to love about that plant?
Which one is that one?
The peace lily.
Peace lily.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is a peace lily.
Ethereum.
And the anthurium, you can't see it here, but they have beautiful white flowers that are just like little half cups. And the anthurium has the red flowers that are a little bit larger. And
That's pretty.
they're also they're easy to grow.
Let me grab one. Hold on.
They like moisture. Oh, you have one. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So they like moisture. They're good in bathrooms. They're good in kitchens as well, or else just misting. Frequent misting is good, but they don't like to be overwatered. But like I said, just when you can find a great misting bottle that you maybe had a rose water in or something, whatever you had it in it, it's got a really nice fine mist. Hang on to it and just mist your plants every day.
I wrote down tonight 7 reasons why you need a peace lily in your house, which we've already really kind of discussed. But 1, the obvious, it purifies the air. 2, it's really low maintenance houseplant, super low maintenance, which I think in our busy lives we need low maintenance, right, and less stress. 3, it absorbs, just like what Rosemary was saying earlier, it absorbs the acetone vapors. It promotes restful sleep. So if you have a couple peace lilies in your bedroom, hey, maybe you go to sleep better. I mean, I don't know, right? It's also the perfect way to spruce up your home with the decor because they do have red, as Sonja has right there. They have the beautiful white ones as well. So that's always really nice. And then it prevents formation of mildew. So if you live in, let's say, the deep south or maybe even in the Midwest, I know a lot of us would have peace lilies in our house, and it just absorbs, like you were saying, all of that mildew and stuff. And number 7, it removes mold spores from the air. So those have been stuff that I actually researched and looked up about a peace lily. So it's kind of neat. Some of that stuff was there. Yeah.
So did everyone get a chance?
Oh, that's beautiful.
Wow.
Did everyone get a chance to state their favorite plants or flower?
Yeah, if you guys just want to unmute yourselves, let's share. Like, do you have plants? Do you have gardens? Like, we love talking, but we love more if we hear from you. And if you have questions, like, that's what we're here for. So please share with us. We'd love to hear. We'd love to know. Cheryl, I think you're still on mute too, by the way.
I'll go. Okay, so I've killed every plant inside my house. So I don't have a single plant inside right now. Okay, so I've killed every plant inside my house. I have managed plant inside right now. Get a really good practice going in my backyard. So I'm loving that. Not overwater them. I do want some inflower. I'm going to try.
Polly?
Shay, what is that? Is that a palm?
Yeah.
Oh, everyone should probably mute and at a time.
Yeah, I'll mute everyone really quick, Holly. I'm going to mute everyone, and then if you want, just raise your hand or go ahead and hit the little icon. There we go. I think that helped. I'm sorry, Holly. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. Did you
Woo!
anything I said?
Let's start over.
Okay, so basically I've killed every plant inside my house, and so I don't have a single plant inside anymore. So I'm going to try it again. But I'm wondering, that's a palm behind you, isn't it, Shay?
Yes, it's a bamboo palm.
Bamboo. That is so pretty. How often do you water that?
I personally water it once a week.
Okay. I'm an overwaterer.
Easy
so
peasy.
That's my big problem, is that I tend to love them too much, and then I kill them all. But I do have a really amazing cactus garden going in my backyard, and my mother-in-law just kept telling me, don't water them. So now I water them every 2 weeks, just lightly, or I'll stick my finger in there and see how dry it is. But that's going really well. So I'm ready to start again and bring some inside. So I do, Rosemary, question for Rosemary, because you were saying you missed every day. How much missed? Because I think I'm an over mister too.
Plants really like to have clean leaves. So part of it is, since I don't water very much, that they still like to have, you know, some moisture because it's so dry in these houses with the air conditioning going all the time. So I mist them to, I hold it up kind of high so it gets a real gentle mist on it until I kind of see that the leaves are gently washed. And then I do a couple of squirts directly to the root system. And that's it. Right. So, you know, analyze if it's not doing good in one place, maybe move it. Maybe it needs a little bit more light or a little less light. So just kind of analyze different factors. Is it getting good drainage? Because I physically take my plants out of pots. The thing that's cool is they have such wonderful decorative pots, and many of them are on stands, so you don't have to worry about that, you know, stagnant water or, you know, stuff dripping on your floor or your furniture or anything. I take them out, and it's kind of like they have it's kind of like their play day. They all get in the sink together during medium sun, and that's when I water them. Let them drain completely, and then replace them into the pots.
All right, thank you.
The drainage thing is a big thing that I found out along the way. No one ever told me how to pot a plant, and not knowing that if you don't have the drainage underneath and the water to be able to go, it will rot everything in there. Yeah. So between my ice maker just so the other thing too is another thing, Holly, I do is I do take my ice and I'll sometimes put it in with my cacti, because I'm not really good at that. I did that with the orchids too, but I still killed the orchids. So we're working on stuff, you know. It's like, okay. So
orchids are tough. You have to find the right touch with orchids.
And the right sunlight, I think, too, and because they can get overheated so quickly. My cousin, who also is going through breast cancer, she has a full table of beautiful orchids. And I'm talking like there'll be 12 orchids on one thing, which, I mean, she really should be a grower, because she has this perfect touch to these babies, and they are her babies. So it's really pretty when she shows up and shows that stuff. We have one person that, because we have simultaneously things. But Amy and Kimmy say, I have a beautiful pineapple plant I planted from the top of a pineapple from the store. It's been very rewarding planting and growing. No bugs, mildew, or high maintenance there. So she wanted to share that with all of us.
Oh, that's great. And they're
That's
beautiful.
so cool.
I didn't know you could plant pineapple here in the desert. Who would have known?
Is it an indoor plant or outdoor plant?
I'll ask her, or we can ask her. Kimmy, Amy, since you're watching us, is it an indoor or outdoor plant? We'll see when they respond here.
Anybody else want to jump in and tell us your favorite plants?
Okay, can you hear me? Okay. I wish I had the green thumb. Like, I have some bamboo plant trees in my house. I have 3 of them, but they're not real. But I do have a beautiful garden. When we moved into this house 12 years ago, we took our time to fill out this garden. I have 7 shoestring acacia trees, and I had 35 polyandras along the walls of my yard. But, you know, in time, sun and everything, they don't all make it over the years, but I've got quite a few of those left. Garden is really a healing garden. I have an elfin's foot. I've got I think 5 hesperia plants, and then various nowenas and other things. But it's the outdoors. And I do my own gardening. I do my own trimming. And I have a beautiful, what is with the red flowers? I can't think of it. It's a big, my husband has to trim it, and he hates trimming it because their leaves are like little potato chips and they fly all over the place. And right now I can't. Bougainvillea. Gorgeous bougainvillea out front. But those are outdoor and they're pretty hardy, you know, for this desert. You have to have something that's hardy in the sun, right? And it's a juggle. We don't get a lot of rain. So if we do get rain, we have to take that water system and shut it down, because otherwise it's too much water for the plants. But I have to say, the outside of my yard is a garden. It's beautiful. But inside, I need to work on that. And after hearing your wonderful presentations tonight, Rosemary and Sonja, I really need to. I'm looking around into the house. I'm like, oh, I think I need to put something in here.
I have a plant for you, the mother-in-law tongue.
The mother-in-law tongue.
A good start. Good start.
You know, it's interesting because when I was growing up in Chicago, I had, in my teens, in my bedroom, I had one of those fluorescent light boxes, and I had all kinds of plants in there. And somewhere along the line, I don't know what happened to me. You know, that whole part of me went away. But I'll try with the mother-in-law tongue, because you said that's pretty, hardy. Yeah. Okay.
I don't really have plants in my house. That's the problem, because I have 2 cats and they eat my plants. Because apparently they're naturopathic cats and they want their greens.
I actually got seeds, and Cheryl, I'm sure you're going to talk about your beautiful gardening that you do, but she got me onto a little bit of gardening over the last year, and I planted specific cat grass. And so it's in my house and it's on the ground, and the cats chew on it and eat it all they want. It's great, because there are some plants that are very poisonous towards pets. And we have dogs and cats, and so that's something that I always Google and make sure. But I also try to have friendly plants for animals in the house, and I also keep everything up on stilts so that they can't really get to it. They'd have to really try to get to the stuff. But yeah.
I have a plant that I've had since 1981, and it's wow. Moved everywhere with me, and I cut it back because right now it's probably 14 feet high right now. Wow. And it blooms every 5 years. A smelly bloom. I have gotten the name of it, but every once in a while I just go in and chop it halfway down and let it grow back up to the ceiling. Then I
oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And then I grow my own vegetables and lettuces and stuff. So, but there's nothing growing in my backyard right now. It's too darn hot. But I'm in prep for planting at September 1st. So,
yep.
So,
what stuff do you start planting in September, Cheryl?
All my lettuces, my micro lettuces and squashes, carrots, tomatoes, cucumbers, pickles, dill pickles, which are the cucumbers, and I do broccoli, and I always try something new every year. So I do the whole thing because we're too hot in the spring to grow too much. So we do better if we plant September and then harvest at Christmas time.
Cheryl, I totally need to talk to you about, because I have an outdoor garden as well, and I always get like the dust mold on my squash plants, and I can't get rid of them.
Get 7 dust. It's too much water also. So my backyard face north, and so I I hardly water at all. Very little. Maybe just 2 times a week.
Wow.
Once everything gets established.
Okay.
But I plant from seed.
Yeah, I
So,
plant from seed.
yeah. So I did the whole thing. And mulch too. You can put some mulch, put your soil in the bottom of the pot, or if you're planting in the ground, put some mulch on the bottom, and then put straw rather. Put some straw where it has leakage, and then put your mulch on top of that before you plant your seeds.
Okay.
Interesting.
Awesome. Thank you, Cheryl.
And it'll keep it from getting root rot.
Okay.
But because we're so cool in the wintertime that you don't need to water every day.
Okay. Thank you.
I want to go back to that 1989 plant that you had.
1981. Yeah, I'll try to show it to you.
Like,
Let me see
you
if I
have to
can.
have a beautiful, oh my gosh, emotional attachment to that baby.
I do.
Is there a name for him or her? I mean,
I don't remember it. So this is it. Can you see it? And then it just goes up, up,
Wow.
up, all the way to the ceiling.
Wow.
And I usually cut it back to about right here. I don't know if you can see my hand.
you can. Wow.
So I usually cut it down a good 4 or 5 feet.
Wow.
Wow.
It's
But
like
The palm plant.
and I'll tell you, for the first 30 years, it never bloomed. And then one day I got up and there was an odor in my house and I couldn't find it. And I looked up and there was a big bloom that stuck out. And I leave it on there till I just can't take the smell. It's like that big orchid plant they have like in Santa Barbara that blooms once a year. And it's so smelly you can't get near it because you want to throw up.
yeah, that's the funeral plant, I think.
Yeah, the funeral plant. And so, but this isn't a funeral plant. I'm not sure what it is anymore because I've had it too long. I forgot what its named it is.
Wow.
But
Fantastic.
I love
You want to jump in there?
I just love playing in the dirt.
Margie, did you want to jump in there? It looks like I
Oh,
know.
Sorry, I just wanted to say that I have a panda plant, and I bought it 3 years ago, and it's in a tiny, tiny 1.5 or 2-inch pot. You know, when you go into Lowe's and they have them all, like little seedlings. The poor thing, it's now like 8 inches tall, and I'm scared to death to repot it. So, and then I have an African milk tree that's in like a little 4-inch pot, and it's like going on 3.5, 4 feet tall. I think I need to repot that one too. So do y'all have advice or tips on repotting without putting the poor plant into shock and me too?
Replant in a pot that's bigger than the one it's in, but not humongous.
How about the soil and everything that's in the pot? Should it be, I need to make it?
I get organic soil from Home Depot.
Okay.
Yeah.
I always
organic potting soil.
Yeah, organic soil. But I always leave the soil that it's been in for so long because it might be a shock to go into completely different soil. But I have to
pull it out and leave the soil, but add more soil.
Okay.
And some people say to kind of just gently kind of pull at the roots a little bit so that they get extra air and space to make new root systems.
Okay. Thank you. And yes, snake plants, I have 2 of those. They are so easy and so great.
They are. Does anybody have any favorite fertilizers or tricks for feeding plants?
I use organic fertilizer as well.
We don't use fertilizer. We use, I think he uses vinegar with cayenne.
What? Really?
Oh wait, no, that's the pesticide that he uses.
Yeah.
Like, he won't use pesticide. He'll use vinegar. I am not the farmer. It is the boyfriend. I don't know what fertilizer he uses. I think he just uses chicken manure. So, because we have a bunch of chickens, we basically have like a chicken farm. So I think he usually uses that, and then they're only fed organic feed. So
I use
I
fish
think it's
meal
that.
too.
Oh, fish meal. Okay.
Hmm. And a bee mixture of different B vitamins and stuff.
In the Midwest, I know a lot of the organic farms use molasses.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So an organic molasses. And you know, the farms that like where my family is, they are certified organic, and you can't be within a certain range even of a conventional farm. So Organic Valley is very, very strict on their and of those. And at some point in time, I'm hoping that we'll have them on to talk to us about that organic stuff. So it will be good. Body and Aesthetic Center, Amy and Kimmy, said they finally answered us, and they said it's a traveler. I have an inside one and an outdoor one. I think it would depend more on if you want to have a baby pineapple or not. For the later, I've decided to keep outdoors at the entryway. So
Nice.
I'm super excited. I'm going to plant a pineapple tree.
Definitely.
You can actually put the top of just about any fruit or vegetable in potting soil, and it will create a plant.
That's what it looks like.
Oh my gosh, it's gorgeous.
Oh yeah.
I like that.
That's Kimmy's. It's huge. You guys see it?
Oh, that's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
Does anybody have an herb garden in their kitchen window?
No, I have it on my patio.
Do you?
Hmm.
I have it in my garden boxes outside.
Yeah.
I have it in my window, basil and green onions.
Oh, cool.
I have thyme, basil, dill, cilantro, and what else did I have? Again, they're not growing right now because I've dumped all my dirt, and I'm starting to fixing my pots with new soil.
Nice.
We keep saying we're going to do an herb garden, but there's never any time because we have a huge garden of all the vegetables. And I mean, normally, but we're not going to plant until September.
Yeah, whatever you do, don't plant mint in your garden because it is a weed and it will take over your entire backyard.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, so put it in a pot.
I have mint in a pot as well.
Yeah, keep it separate.
Yeah. And also don't plant.
And their roots go down so deep. I had to clean out one of my gardens because I have raised gardens, and I had to call upon some friends to come help me dig it out because we had to take all the dirt out and then pull up all the roots.
If you're planting it in a pot, they say to put a piece of screen over the drainage hole to prevent, because the roots will just go right down through the pot and they'll start invading around the pot. Yeah. So I've heard that the mesh from a screen will keep it from doing that.
Yeah. Also, don't plant catnip either, because catnip is part of the mint family, and it will also take over your garden as well as it took over my garden box, and I was like, no, I had to cut everything back, and
yeah. And if you plant radishes,
our gardens don't.
if you plant radishes, just plant a few, because last year I had giant radishes because I didn't pick them fast enough, and overnight they grew to the size of a volleyball. They were huge.
Oh my gosh.
They were huge. Yeah. I'll bring some to you if I plant some more, Shay.
Awesome. Well, is there anyone else that has some more questions for us or anything? Yes, Holly.
Hey, where is everyone's favorite garden place? Because I kind of personally find Home Depot and Lowe's boring. Is there a better one? I was Googling and I saw Muller's Garden Center. Has anybody tried that?
That's actually, and I'm not like, I don't work for them, so
Yeah.
but that's where the advice came from.
Okay.
I searched the entire valley. Specifically, I wanted a bamboo fern, or I think that's what they're called. And I got the first one, and then I was like, oh, it's so gorgeous. And I had it for 2 or 3 weeks just to see how it would work in my house.
Yeah.
And I really, right away, I don't know what it is, but I became instantly happier having her in the house, or him. I don't know what I got, Kova or Fosse first. I have no clue. But I would literally tend to the plant. And there was a second one there, and I debated on whether going back, because, it's an investment. And I did. I went back and I got it, and I'm glad that I did. I really do get a lot of joy out of these plants, which is something that I would have never thought of, getting so much happiness from plants, because I used to kill them all the time. But they're easy, Holly. They're super easy to take care of. And Muller's, also Bob Williams Nursery, which
I've been there.
They're cool. Excellent. They have both places have people that can really tell you, like, where your house faces in the sun and everything. They are so like, this will work there, this won't. What I did notice is that Muller's had a lot more indoor plants than Bob Williams. Bob Williams had more outdoor plants.
Okay, I'm going to try Muller's.
And Muller's is a beautiful place to walk around and get inspiration.
I love that.
So it's a nice walk. And like Shay was saying, the people there are so knowledgeable and very, very helpful. But and sometimes you can go to those places and get inspiration. Then when you go back to Lowe's, plants just look better because you know more about them.
Yeah.
Patrice, I was thinking for your herb garden, maybe just try a little pot, and put some basil seeds or something in them, as long as you have nice sun. And see if you can't just do one herb in your kitchen garden. And it's really cool to be able to just pluck your herbs out of your windshield, out of your windowsills.
Just fresh. Because that's always our problem. We want to make things, and then we'll go to the store and we'll get like a bunch of cilantro, and it's like, why don't I just grow this? This stuff grows like crazy. Why don't I just...
So just start with one plant in a little pot and see how the herbs grow, and maybe it'll
The only thing I've ever done is like when somebody buys me flowers, so it's not a plant, but I've always, I don't know, I'm really weird about plants. Like, they just, I don't know, they always die. So then I'm like, this is a job, and this is one more thing for me to do. I'm not about it.
Patrice, if you need seeds, you can get seeds from Territorial Seed Company, and also heirloom seeds from Baker's Creek Seed Company.
For a garden?
For gardens. I don't get garden seeds from like Home Depot or anything, because you don't know how old they are or where they came from.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome. Well, you guys, I think we've come to the end of our Talk, Listen, Share. I just, before I do our drawing, courtesy of Succulent Creations, I'm so excited for this, but I wanted to let you know that all of our programs for Shay's Warriors is completely complimentary. Shay's Warriors is a 501c3 nonprofit. It was started by a bunch of us who had literally gone through cancer. And if you followed my journey, if you followed some of the others' journeys, it's a part of the Shay's Warriors group. And our board is amazing. I want to thank Rosemary Flaherty and Dr. Sonja Fung for not only being a part of our board, but being 100% volunteers, because all of us on Shay's Warriors, we are 100% volunteers. And we just want to be able to give back to our survivorship community. So if you know someone, if you have some topics, if you yourself want to collaborate with us or build a partnership, please reach out to me. We are always interested in doing those different topics and in giving back to our community. The shayswarriors.org website has music, it has blog posts, it has this type of venue on there for warriors going through what we do, and also just because there's more stuff out there after life after cancer, to be able to get back involved and movement and voice and all of that good stuff. Let's see, I just want to look at my notes here. We also, on the website, which is brand new, we have a new link called Nominate a Warrior or a Hometown Hero. So because of COVID this year, we weren't able to have our annual retreat, but we do have some stuff up our sleeves. And on our Shay's Warriors website, if you go there and you see Nominate a Warrior and you know someone who's a survivor who needs a little bit of love and support still, we have some fun things that we're able to gift them. And that's with collaboration and partnerships of our community and beyond. So as the months roll here, we'll start implementing those, and they'll be a part of this talk or the Coffee and Connection that I host on Wednesday mornings. So I just want to let you guys know that if you know a survivor who is just needing just maybe not a bear hug, but maybe they're needing a bear, we can probably make that happen. So there's some really, really awesome people behind this. And our job is just to bring joy to people's lives, to know that our cancer warriors, thrivers, survivors, we're not forgotten. You know, we know what we went through, and the anxiety and the roller coaster is still there. And our board really, really knocks it crazy to be able to make this happen. So if you guys check it out, give us feedback. You can always email in, and we're here for you. So that's one thing I wanted to make sure that I was able to tell you tonight. And I have everyone who is watching tonight. There was a ton of you on Zoom, and then a ton of people on live Facebook tonight, which were sending messages and DMs. So that was great. Our goal is just to build more awareness, and we really hope that you guys invite someone too, that maybe there's some topics you want to know about. So I'm going to pick right here, and she is on vacation right now, but as soon as I pick tonight's winner, I know I'm like stalling, right? As soon as I pick tonight's winner, I'm going to email you or ask you to send me your email address on our live chat, and then I will connect the two of you so you're able to get a plant. Yay! And she has some amazing plants. So, all right, are we ready? Tell me when.
Now.
All right, this person, I don't know who this is. Paulina. Paulina is one of our live Facebook people, and she is the happy recipient of the So I will contact you, Paulina. I believe I already have your email address, and we will go from there. So on behalf of all of our Shay's Warriors tribe, thank you for being here. And like I said, please reach out with any feedback, comments, or anything. Thank you so much.